Welcome to Small Town Snarks. I'm Joel.
And I'm Miranda. Let's get snarky.
And hell why? Button when you can stay right here, pursue a film career.
How about a nice Birkin bag?
Yes! The East Coast, it's foreign.
There's no film studios. Welcome back, Snarkies.
Oh, welcome back. Welcome back. We got a new show. We're jumping right into this one.
Yep.
It's
Legally
happening.
Blonde. Oh,
Legally-
yeah.
We've had our fun. Our work here is done. We're setting you free. So go home and be.
Yeah,
Legally
go
Blonde.
home and be.
Yeah, go home and be. Yeah, we're back.
We're back.
How's your week been?
Crazy.
Crazy?
We just opened POTUS.
You did just open
Yep.
POTUS.
We sold a lot of cocktails.
Oh, that's
Good time.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. What's the most popular one? I know there's two. Well, do you want to share what the two are and then what the
Okay.
most popular one is?
So there's a blushy
Oh, of course.
and
Sure.
the power stance.
The power, I love that.
The power stance is like a rum orange punch situation, and the blushy
Love that. Okay.
is vodka blue lemonade.
Mhm.
Yeah. And the blushy gets a little lemon on top, and the power stance gets a little cherry.
Oh, I love that.
The blushy, people are gravitating towards the blushy.
That makes sense. That just makes sense.
Yeah, it's a
for
good
the show.
name.
Yeah.
And it's like a very prominent moment in the show, and I think
Sure.
people are they're gravitating towards that one. But we did sell some power stances as well.
Oh, good.
Love to see it.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Well, good, yeah.
No one walked out.
Oh, that's even better.
And they were all prepared for what
Okay.
the material is.
Yeah, it's a wild show.
It is. It takes you on a journey, and I'm here for it.
Yes. Oh, for sure. For sure.
Definitely a radar.
Mm-hmm.
Fun time. So, yeah, thank you for introducing me to that show.
Oh, absolutely.
That was all you. So.
Yeah, I mean, after seeing it a few years ago, I was like, this is an incredibly hilarious and also, like, practical farce. Like, it's just... It felt almost like a Saturday Night Live sketch, but extended for, like, 2 hours. And I felt like that was the way that it was kind of described to me before I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And it just is entertaining and nonstop comedy from beginning to end.
Yeah, and it's just so rare that you have an all-female show.
Oh, yeah.
Let alone an all-female comedy.
Mm-hmm.
So to have that, to have female characters that are written well and are funny is just a really good time. So,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely unique in that way, and I hope people continue writing shows like that because I want to do more of them. So
Exactly. Yeah,
write them,
yeah.
write them so I can do them.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad it went well, and I hope the rest of the run is a success.
I have a quick tangent before we go
sure,
to
please.
our Legally Blonde. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
When we were talking about Spring Awakening last week, I forgot to share that randomly, like a year after the show, Steven Sater commented
Yes, I forgot about
on
that.
one of our Spring Awakening rehearsal photos.
Uh-huh.
And we actually had a back and forth for like a solid 10 minutes, and I cried. I was like, oh my God. And he wrote the book and lyrics for Spring Awakening. So just wanted to share that. Forgot to last week, but it was definitely a big, like, it was a fangirl moment for me, for sure.
It's such a big acknowledgement, too. I mean, someone at that level is seeing the
Right.
work that's being done.
And so random. Like, a year later, just finding a random rehearsal photo and just commenting on it. Like, oh my gosh, it was a great time.
Well, and for him, that's like 2 seconds out of his day, but, like, that just changes everything for us. So it's,
Right.
Yeah, I remember that, and that was a really big moment for sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I was at the Who's Tommy at the Kennedy Center when I saw that.
Oh, goodness. Well, are we ready to discuss Legally Blonde?
I've never been more ready.
We were talking about this show before we started recording today, and I really love this musical. I remember watching MTV recorded the Broadway production,
Yes.
and I remember watching it and just was like, this is wild. It was kind of my first, like, real experience of, like, present day musical theater that's currently still available to see on Broadway, being accessible for the general audience. And like, they knew who they were reaching out to. They knew how to access them. And watching that video, it just became very like just a cornerstone of my musical theater existence at that point in time. So I've always had like an association with this show that I really liked, and even seeing it now, I mean, we saw it recently, a production of it recently, and I still found myself knowing every word and like seeing how people do certain things. It just feels so familiar and so like iconic at the same time. It's just such a good show. But do you remember when Legally Blonde first popped into your theater life?
Well, I mean, I'd seen the movie,
Yeah.
obviously. I'd watched it late at night, like, by myself. I don't know what the circumstances were around that, but I think I saw it for the first time when I was in high school. Obviously loved it. I had resisted watching it for a while. I don't really know why, but loved the movie. And then I don't know when I first became super familiar with it. If I had to guess, it was probably in high school when some of the musicals they would have us prepare stuff for. It was rare, but I remember we prepared songs for Footloose auditions, and that song came up. So Much Better from Legally Blonde came up in all my searches. Luckily, I didn't do it because every other girl in the high school sang it. But it's in that same like style. Great song, Elwood solo moment.
Big act break.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of when I started becoming familiar with it. I remember I really wanted our high school to do it because there's so many good female parts in it.
Oh, absolutely.
And honestly, we were on this trend of having big sets, so it would have fit really, but drama teacher she wasn't going for it, but it was I'd kind of like become casually aware of it. I don't think I'd watched the full thing until we decided we wanted to do it. Once we had decided we were gonna do the show, I found a recording of it and watched the whole thing, and I was like, it's gonna be a challenge. It's gonna be fun, but it's gonna be a challenge.
Yeah, and I mean, you bring that up about it being a challenge. I think back about all the shows, and like every one of the shows that we had done up to that point had its challenges, but I don't think any of the shows were on the scale of what Legally Blonde required to an extent. I mean, I just think back to, I mean, we'll get more in depth with this, but like the set requirements alone for that show. The cast was, I mean, there was a huge cast, costumes, it just felt, I mean, I wasn't part of Grease, but like it felt like from my experience with Heathers and Spring Awakening, like this is the big time musical theater show.
It's a spectacle show in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
And it was definitely closer in terms of workload to Grease. We were more prepared for it. So at this point, I mean, you're looking at it, this is, 4 years after Grease? So I felt more prepared to do this, but it was definitely, it was still a massive undertaking. We were working out of my parents' garage to build the set, and we were still at that rehearsal space in Union Bridge. So when you talk about storage and building things, our resources were extremely limited, extremely. So a lot of stuff to cover there, and I'm sure we'll get to it. But I think first, I mean, like the place where all good decisions are made, this decision to do this show was made by the two of us at Panera. You know,
as all good decisions are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Our home base. That was our home base for
a while. Yeah.
Which I'm glad we're not there anymore. It's just, I don't know. Hot take on Panera.
You eat
it's
one
overpriced.
salad, right? You eat one salad, you've had them all, you know.
Honestly, yeah, like their thing for a while is, we have bread bowls. Like, yeah, but, you know, you're going to pay a kidney for that bread bowl. Like, it just, she's expensive. It's like the Starbucks of fast food, you know?
Sure.
It's like, we're gonna overcharge you, but you're going for the experience, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my hot take of the day. I'm not a Panera fan, but it was a great spot for our meeting places, and we had still been meeting in Frederick at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, before we even get into like those discussions and the audition process, I'll just state for everybody. So, Legally Blonde was summer of 2019.
Yep, sure was. Year I graduated college.
The year you graduated college. Yep. Still in the before times, pre-pandemic.
Yep.
You know, it was a big moment. It was a good summer show. Great.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Uh-huh. You mentioned we were still at the Jesus Saves room.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yes, I mean, I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, so you mentioned that we selected the show, Panera, but auditions were like 4 or 5 months prior to the show. Like, we had them in wintertime.
Yes.
And then, like, from that point, there was a big gap before we had started rehearsals. Yeah,
that was intentional. So it actually wasn't winter time. I believe it was spring break that we had the auditions. Mm-hmm. You might be right. It was a few months.
Very early. It felt earlier than usual.
So it was in the middle of my school year, and came home, did auditions, went back to school to finish up school, and then we were going to start rehearsals in May.
Yeah.
And the reasoning behind this is we knew the costumes were going to be ridiculous. Like, we knew we were going to, like, the workload of constructing the costumes, getting the costumes, all that stuff. So we had auditions early so I could get Jen, who is my mom, but also does a lot of the costumes. She had done the costumes for 4 years at that point. So I could get her the cast sizes, and she would have a couple months of working on it before we even started rehearsals. Mm-hmm. I'm glad we did auditions early because we did have to, like, acquire some additional people to fill, like, some of the smaller roles. Mm-hmm. So Legally Blonde it's really, really tricky because it's a big ensemble show.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
And not only is it a big ensemble show, every character in the musical has a random solo line. Mm-hmm. I think the perfect example of this is the store manager who comes out when Elle's trying on her dress, has a big belty part, and then leaves.
Yes.
So some of these roles were so specific that we had to find people who could fill them who didn't come, audition for that specific part.
Yeah.
And we had, this was our biggest audition turnout. We had more than 30 people come audition, which was huge for us, but we still needed some of these tiny, bit parts to come up. And I remember even, reaching out to some people and offering them, the part that has the one line. And I'm like, you can just show up for a couple rehearsals. And they would be like, oh, actually, I really want to do the ensemble for the show. So our ensemble ended up growing, and that was really exciting as well. But it's such a tough show for that exact reason. There's people in the salon during Bend and Snap that they don't have any other solos, but they've got a crazy solo in that number. So while it is challenging, it's a great show to showcase a lot of performers. Absolutely. And that's part of what I just adored about it, is everyone kind of got their moment to show off, which is fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, that audition process, I remember bits and pieces of it. And I remember having those follow-up conversations about those smaller, well, not smaller parts, but those more, those parts that had those one lines that were very, very specific, and that they required a specific performer, or they needed to have some sort of a talent or something specific for that role.
Right.
So I remember having those conversations with you, and but I don't remember too much from the actual audition process prior to that point. I do remember that this was, and this is not, if this has happened again since, I don't remember it, and through our conversations, I don't remember it, but I do remember that this was one of the first and only times that we've ever, at auditions, after everyone had auditioned and we'd gone through callbacks, so we had offered someone the lead at auditions before we had even posted the cast list. And that was a very, sometimes you just feel very confident about a decision, and, you're getting to a point where you want to make sure that you are giving people enough time so that way they are prepared and they are ready to go with that role. And I just remember us having a brief moment about that before we did it and whether or not it was the right thing to do. And it just in that moment felt like a very important decision to make. And that still sits with me to this day of like, sometimes you know, when you know, and then when you know, it's just time to go ahead and go for it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we've kind of learned as we have been doing so many shows back to back is like, you got to go with your gut and just lock it in. Don't overthink it. Just lock it in. Yeah. And with that particular situation, we had a lot of people who auditioned that could have played that part. I mean, it was, we heard a lot of So Much Betters, a lot. And, you know, this goes back to my other pro tip that I've addressed before and will address again. If you can't hit the note, pick a different song or pick a different cut of the song, because there's a note at the end of that where you have to hit it at the end of Act 1 and you're going to be really tired, and if you can't hit it in the audition room, you're not going to be able to hit it on stage.
Right.
But I remember part of the reason we had this conversation with this person was, you know, we had some questions we wanted to ask them before we offered them the part. And this was actually, this is a good day for me, and not all auditions are like this, but this was one of my friends from high school who ended up getting this role. And it was one of those situations where she had never come out for a show with us before. She was coming out for this one. And I remember thinking before auditions, it was like, wow, I hope she kills this, you know? Because when you're in that situation, you have someone you really care about auditioning, you know that they're really going for certain roles or whatever. All you can do is hope that they kill it, because no matter what, we're going to make the decision that's best for the production, no matter how hard it is. And sometimes the right decision isn't the easy decision.
Exactly.
We've had to do that a lot. But I was definitely like, I just hope she kills this. And she did. So that was one of the great moments where I was just like, yes, she did it. And she had never led a show before in terms of like being Elle in Legally Blonde. Like, you are carrying that show on your back.
Yes.
Like, you are definitely like leading that show.
Yes.
There are other leads in shows where that's not the case, but this one is definitely like, you're the center point for everything.
Exactly.
So that was a really cool moment. It was really neat to get to see her reaction like on the day. It was pretty cool. And like you said, we've never done that since, and it was a very specific set of circumstances as to why we did it that particular time, but it was still a fun memory and good to have that.
Exactly. Yeah. It's something that just sits in my mind as like a really the circumstances have to be really right to do that, but it sits really well as a nice memory from that process, which casting days are usually not that, and you don't usually get that sort of like instant like adrenaline and excitement of like seeing someone receive a part that they auditioned and really had a great audition for.
A lot of times now, I get a feeling of dread. I get like a pit in my stomach when I'm like, oh, we have to make this decision, and I don't want to because it's going to hurt so-and-so's feelings, but it's the right thing to do. And it's tough. It's really tough.
Sure.
But this one was a good one. And I don't know if you remember this, but we did have people jump rope during auditions. I brought in jump ropes. Yes.
I did not remember that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I guess we did, didn't we?
Yep.
Yeah, we've got a lot of jump rope stories.
Oh, my goodness.
Jump rope
do
stories.
We have jump rope stories? Yes, we do.
So good. Yeah, we'll have to talk about our long rehearsal, our one-night mega rehearsal of that song. I did want to ask, though, you brought up, and this might be a nice transition from our audition process into the rehearsal process, but you brought up we had a lot of roles that we needed to still fill. One of the roles that we kind of found a creative way to fill was the role of Aaron Schultz.
Yeah.
Yes. So I don't want to take the I guess I did kind of push that choice on us a little bit because I was I don't want to take all of the
it was definitely your
acknowledgement for
idea.
that. Yes.
Yeah.
But essentially what we did was we didn't have someone for that particular role, and we decided that we were going to have 4 alumni split that part for each performance. And I think that was coming off of us doing Spring Awakening and having that one alternate for the one role, and like knowing that it was a possibility and it was something that we could do and be a really nice callback to our previous shows to have people who may want to participate but they can't commit to the entire summer of rehearsals or whatever the case may be. And that was such a unique and fun experience. And I don't know, from a memory standpoint or from a feeling standpoint, post doing that, I don't know if it's something I'm really ready to run out and do again necessarily, but it was so unique to be able to not only work with people who had done shows with us before but had come back and were so engaged in the process and wanting to help us put on a really solid production, and they were so committed to learning that part. And for me, it was just super unique to watch how, like, all 4 of them were called to similar rehearsals, but, they all couldn't make it to all the same rehearsals, or some of them came to one rehearsal one night, or we made it work for the other 2 or whatever. Seeing all 4 of them perform that part and perform it ever so slightly differently was so interesting, and such like a really, like, it was a big theater moment for me. It was like watching how their interactions in that part with the other characters, just seeing them all interact together was really, really fascinating to me. So I have a positive memory from that experience. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I do too. I do believe it could have backfired, and had it backfired, it would have been pretty bad. But it didn't. It was great. We got to work with 4 people that we really enjoy working with. And like you said, we got to see, like, the differences that they brought to the part. So it was a ton of fun. Initially, when you pitched it to me, I was like, he's lost his mind. But
it wasn't the first time, won't be the last.
But it was great. It was a good idea. I think from a business perspective too, like, we had different people coming to those different performances to see Aaron Schultz. So it was a win-win.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, so there was that process, and then there was another decision that was made, and I recently had to dive back into my memory on this process a lot because in addition to helping, I believe I was assistant director for this production, if I remember correctly. In addition to being assistant director, I also got back into acting for this production.
Sure did.
I did. I did. Specifically as Elle Woods' father.
Yeah.
Playing opposite Jen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then in the same number, I'll never forget, playing one of the Harvard admissions people during What You Want. That was quite the experience. That was the first time that I had really, I had done like 1 or 2 shows in college, but other than that, I had not done any acting since junior year of high school. And like, when you first pitched that idea, I was like, okay, sounds great. I can make that work. That's fine. We'll figure it out. It'll be great. And then as I like thought deeper into the show, I'm like, okay, great. So I have to sing a couple bars. Okay, great. I have to, there's this big like comedic moment. He's got a lot of really funny lines during What You Want. Both of those characters do. But then when I thought deeper about it, I was like, oh, okay, Legally Blonde remix. Elle's father and mother are in that scene, and there is quite a lot of dancing in that number.
There sure is.
And I like to consider myself as I'm an excellent mover. I'm an excellent mover. I can move from here to there. I also say the same thing about me giving choreography. Like, I can teach people to move at a certain time.
Movement with intention.
Movement with intention, yes. I'm very, very good at that. When it comes to dancing and doing structured choreography, I get lost in space very quickly. So that was quite the experience from this production. Just moving into kind of the rehearsal aspect of it all, just learning the choreography, jumping back and forth between doing those parts and also helping you with strategizing for directing and like coming up with blocking and doing all of that, all of those different pieces. I mean, I'll have some more stories when we get into the actual run of the show of what that process looked like, but it was really exciting for me to be able to have that experience again, because I definitely thought that my days on stage were well in the past. Like by that point in time, they were like, I have no ambitions to be on stage. I'm not striving to be on stage. But that experience was just like, okay, great. I can, at the drop of a hat in an emergency situation, I might be able to make it work and people won't ask for their money back afterwards. So, it was really good, really, really good. But
yeah, it was so much fun watching you on stage. And I really loved, well, what you want, you had a quick change, which I'm sure you'll talk about that process and everything, but seeing Elle, like, basically grinding on you as you're trying to, like, stop this
serious
shindig, it was so much fun. And, before we get too much into rehearsals, I need to take us back a minute, because I remember I have a story. I don't normally remember sending casting emails, but I do have a story about this one, because...
Oh, okay.
So, I had to drive back to school the night after, or the night of callbacks.
Okay.
We had decided what the cast list was going to be, and I was driving back with Dakota, because we both went to the same college. Mm-hmm. And he needed to pick up some stuff from his house. Mm-hmm. Or I was driving him home, and I slept and then drove back that morning. I can't remember what it was. But regardless, I was very tired when I was driving back to school, because I just sent out the emails. So, at the time, this is relevant, I worked at a diner in Woodsboro. Mm-hmm. And... we parked the car in front of his house, and I was like, I'm just going to send these emails real quick. And then, we can get a few hours of sleep, and then we're going to go. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting in the car, sending these emails. It's late at night. And a cop comes up and knocks on the window. And I roll down the window, and he's like, what are you doing? And I was just like, oh, I'm just sending some emails. And then he goes... Ma'am, do you work at Old Town? And I was like, yes. And he goes, you were my waiter. And I was like, oh, okay. And then he left. But it was just a really strange...
Just checking in on you while you send out these important casting emails.
That definitely was not what he was expecting when he walked up to the car.
I don't think anyone could ever expect that would be a case that they'd be walking up on.
I think he was expecting some nefarious...
Probably.
activity. But it was just so weird to have him just stop, look at me, and go, you work at Old Town? I'm like, yes. It's so weird. Oh my gosh. But anyway, taking us back to rehearsals.
Sure.
Yeah, you were definitely wearing many hats and like shifting from the acting to directing to, basically stage managing, trying to get the scene transitions and everything done it was a lot. And that was something I didn't quite process when you ended up in the show, is I was like, oh, he's not going to be out here with me running the show, because he's in the show. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I remember like we said, we'll talk more about the production itself and running the shows, but it was definitely, it felt like a many hats sort of situation, because,
right.
I'm in that opening, or not the opening number, but like the third number in the show,
right,
playing two parts, and then I switch from that back to being stage manager, assistant director, wearing that hat, and then I go from there back into costume, so that way I can do Legally Blonde remix, go into the finale, and then it's like back into curtain call, and like everything was just, it was a crazy production, but such a rewarding experience.
Yeah.
It's such a rewarding experience. And I didn't even mention, like, I remember helping you in the lobby prior to the show. And, like, I had to, like, 5 minutes before the show started, go back and get into costume. Like, it was just one thing after another.
It was wild. It was wild.
Yeah.
Do you remember where Legally Rats came from?
Legally Rats. I haven't heard that saying in so long. I don't remember where Legally Rats
We're going to
came
have
from.
to reach out to the peeps that were in that show because there was a running joke where our cast, I don't know why, I don't know where it came from, but they would just start like talking about Legally Rats every day. Legally Rats, we're all rats, Legally Rats. And I was like, what is happening? This is an inside joke that I don't understand.
Right, exactly. Were we the rats? Who were the rats?
I don't know. Were they all rats?
I don't know. I have no idea. I remember this happening, and I remember being as confused as you are.
Well, I think now, in the year of 2025, we need to get to the bottom of it.
Yes, I love some investigative journalism.
Yeah. Who are the rats?
To all of our snarkies listening.
Yes.
If you were in Legally Blonde and you know who the rats are, or what the rats are, or where the rats came from, there were no physical rats that I ever saw, but if you know who the rats are, please let us know.
And
please.
we're the rats' lawyers.
Yes, please let us know. Please.
Yes.
We would love to have you on.
Yes.
On to talk about the rats.
Tell your story about the rats. I want to hear your perspective.
Exactly.
And I want to finally know.
Legally Rats. Yeah, please let us know.
Yeah, I remember, like, them having those conversations, and I just had a thought, and I was like, this cast is quirky, aren't they? But I loved it. They all loved each other. And it was so much fun. But, yeah definitely, it's time. We need to get to the bottom of this.
Legally Rats, yep. Let's talk about these rehearsals a little bit.
No?
Okay. Let's just move on to a different show. Now, this rehearsal process, again, as we said earlier, we were back in the Jesus Saves room.
Yep.
We did not have the opportunity or the luck of being able to have our set in the space.
Yeah. It's way too big.
The set was way too big. And also, we'll talk about the fact that the set was really not finished or in the process of being finished until... Dare I say the 11th hour of this process?
We'll talk about it.
Yeah. But, so, I mean, we were in the space. Some of my fondest memories from this rehearsal process, we had dogs in the show.
We sure did.
Which, dogs on stage, you know that old adage of working with animals on stage can be problematic. This show, we had two of the best dogs we could have ever asked for. I mean, they were very professional, excellent animals, great to work with. But that was one of those things that I think early on, I know you and I were like, okay, great, we have to have two dogs in the show.
Yes.
We have to make it happen. We will find a way to make it happen.
I remember, oh my god, this is so random. I was having like a minimally invasive surgery on my arm, and I was awake for it, and my dad was there with me, and to try to distract me, he was talking about Legally Blonde, because we had just decided we were going to do it, and I think later that day, we were actually going to Carroll Community College to, like, look at the venue and sign the contracts and stuff, so... I'm laying there, he's like, so why do you want to do Legally Blonde? And I was like, because there are dogs in it. And he was like, well, why do you want to work with dogs? I was like, because it'll be a nice challenge. And I was so stressed. And then afterwards, he was like, was that the truth? Like, is that why you want to do the show? And I was like, I don't even know. I don't know. It just came out. And maybe that was just, like, the truth deep down inside me that came out during that moment. But... I love dogs. Yeah. And it was a challenge.
It was.
But in a good way.
It was in a good way. It was definitely something different that we hadn't worked on or worked with before. And I have nothing but positive memories from that process, which was great. Do you want to talk about some jump ropes?
Oh, do I want to talk about some jump ropes? Of course I do.
Okay, so let me just set the scene for anyone who may not be familiar with Legally Blonde, the musical, which, if you're not familiar with Legally Blonde, the musical, I'm already upset with you.
Yeah, what are you even doing?
Exactly. The time is now. I don't condone watching anything online that is on YouTube, but
do it
if you
anyway.
accidentally trip over a video on YouTube that has the entirety of the show, I didn't tell you to watch it, but just leave it on. In any event, the top of Act 2 is a number called Whipped Into Shape, and it introduces the audience to Brooke Wyndham, fitness queen Brooke Wyndham, and her jump rope and her exercise video.
Yep.
So for essentially, I don't know how long the song is, but I'm just going to say 3.5, 4 minutes, probably.
Yeah, there's a lot of dialogue that comes in
dialogue,
randomly.
yeah.
Yep.
Essentially, everybody on stage is jump roping for 3.5, 4 minutes, give or take, straight. And it's not just jump roping up and down. It's doing tricks with the jump rope. It's doing jump rope, side to side, jump rope up and down, jump rope everywhere.
Yep. Descriptions of how the jump ropes are supposed to be moving are actually in the song.
Yes.
So you kind of have to do it.
Yes. I don't remember. I remember us discussing that we wanted to make sure that number was as crisp and clean as humanly possible. But I don't remember per se necessarily being concerned about that concerned that they were going to be able to do it. I think I underestimated the amount of work it was going to take to get there. But I know that we were very confident that we wanted it to be a very strong show-stopping number.
Yeah, it's... Talk about demanding.
Oh, yes.
I mean, that was probably one of the most demanding numbers we've ever done, I would say. And those people in that number worked so hard. I mean, they were practicing every day at home. They would bring home the jump ropes and practice with them. They like I say to people, and people look at me like I'm crazy when they're like, hey, can I take my costume home and wash it, or can I take this home and fix this thing? And I'm like, you need to bring it back or you lose your privileges. And they're just like, oh, I get it, of course I have to bring it back. I'm like, you need to bring it back. And I say it because it's happened.
Yeah,
we had people show up and be like, I forgot my jump rope, and I'm like, well, guess you're not jump roping today.
Exactly.
Yeah. But the jump ropes sometimes went on vacation.
Yeah, I don't remember when that term started being used, but I believe that's a Joelism.
Oh, yes, it is. Yeah, that is like one of my favorite Joelisms.
Yeah, I remember. So to describe what that term meant, we had days, and when I say days, I mean there were multiple days where we would just run that number on repeat. We just would not stop. And the biggest thing that would happen, it wouldn't be people tripping or falling or anything like that, but their jump ropes would fly out of their hands.
Yep, because you get sweaty.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then when you're spinning the jump rope in a circle in front of you, sometimes it just goes whoop.
Yeah, so vacation, the term vacation was used to describe when your jump rope would take flight and fly to the other side of the room.
Yep.
And I think the biggest explanation that we gave to the cast was that when your jump rope goes on vacation, you're not going on vacation.
Nope.
You are continuing to jump like your jump rope has not left home.
Yep.
Your jump rope is having a staycation in your mind. And we encouraged people. We said, look, if your jump rope goes on vacation, do not worry about it. Do not go and get it, because you probably will get hurt trying to go and get it.
Yep.
You need to keep jump roping or, mimicking or miming, whatever it is that you're jump roping until it is safe to go and retrieve your jump rope. And it worked. I mean, at the end of the day, that process worked really efficiently.
Yep.
But we had many a jump rope go on vacation.
We did. We even tried to get the cast special gloves where the jump ropes would stay, and they just wouldn't. And we actually, when they were running that number, the cast could not stand on the sides of the room because they could get hurt. Everyone had to move to the back so they could run the number. And this was definitely a big, I think I use this saying a lot when we were talking about this number, which is fake it till you make it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You slip up, you step on your jump rope goes on vacation, whatever. You just got to fake it. You got to sell it, and eventually you'll make it. And yeah, they did such an awesome job. But I definitely remember lots of discussions about protocol for when your jump rope goes on vacation. And it's a great point you brought up. If they were to try to get it, they would probably get smacked with another jump rope.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Crazy
I mean,
time.
we put a lot of time and energy, the cast collectively, but us as well, in trying to find ways to make sure that that number happened, and was very, very strong. And I remember being very happy with the end result.
Yep. Not only
number.
that, speaking of costumes, like I mentioned earlier,
Oh, yeah.
there's a quick change in this number.
There is a quick change.
Because why not?
Of course. There's got to be one.
Because it starts out as a music video, and then it transitions to prison. So our peeps that were in the music video, now we had a couple people just come out for the prison part, because there were more people, in the prison doing this with her than in the music video. But the peeps that were in the music video that were also in the prison had to go off, and they probably had 20 seconds
Maybe.
to throw on that jumpsuit, and then they had to go right back on and start jump roping again.
Yep.
Which is crazy. And also we had to buy a bunch of orange jumpsuits.
Had to. We had to have them.
Yeah.
We had to have them.
Yeah, and Brooke Wyndham had to change into her jumpsuit on stage. So, it's crazy
Big
time.
expectations in that number.
Oh, yeah.
Big expectations.
The show in general, but that one is just wild. I'm actually surprised they haven't come out with a version that modifies the requirements for that number.
Yeah, it's one of those numbers that it's so essential to the plot and also so unnecessary at the same time.
I know.
Like everything that happens on that number sets up the rest of Act 2. But like, she could have been in charge of her video could have been anything.
Yep, it just screams
Jumping
like
jacks.
we
or
have
like
Broadway
like,
money.
Exactly.
And resources.
I'm like trying to think of like it could have been any other exercise.
Yeah.
But it had to be jump ropes.
Had to.
Had to be jump ropes.
Had to.
And I also, I think my other favorite thought from that process was like, it's very hard when you're encouraging and trying to support people who are doing something that you yourself could never do. And I just remember feeling so like, I was so genuinely proud of all of them for getting that number, but I also was like, we're so close, keep doing it. I can't do it, but you can. I know you can.
I know. Isn't that so hard? Because I remember thinking the same thing, because I tried. And there's a video somewhere of us attempting that number. I'll have to see if I can find it.
That. Oh, that would be really good.
Yeah, there is a video somewhere of the two of us attempting that. And, I mean, obviously we were joking because we knew we couldn't do it the way they could do it. But that's a really hard thing. And I remember feeling that way when I was a cheerleader too, because our coaches, some of the stunts we did were crazy, and our coaches would be trying to coach us through it, and I'm looking at them like, you're not the one up in there,
Right,
like,
exactly.
you don't know. And I definitely felt like a little bit guilty coaching them through that jump roping when I'm like, yeah, you're doing way better than I ever could.
Yeah, I would really love to see that video, and I like, even thinking about it now, I'm like, health-wise, I'm significantly healthier now than when we did this production, but like even now I'm like, there's no way, there's absolutely no way.
It's hard. It's tough on the knees too. And we're not getting any younger.
No, we're not getting any younger. I'm not getting anywhere closer to being able to jump rope, so
we just need to start practicing every day.
Exactly.
It's okay.
We'll
we can
be
do
ready.
It.
Yeah, Legally Blonde in 2037. We'll be ready.
2039. Let's
39. Give us a couple extra years. Why rush it? You know.
You know.
Oh gosh. Yes.
Maybe then we would actually be old enough to be Elle's parents.
Oh, that's such a thought. Oh my gosh.
You could bring it back.
I could. I remember all the words, so yeah.
Wow.
You know, exactly. Something else I want to talk about from this rehearsal process. One thing I pride ourselves on, and I feel like we've gotten even better with it over time, is transitions.
Oh, I love a good transition.
And I know you do. I do too. I love when a transition can look so intentional that like the audience just doesn't like, it just flows.
Yep.
It just flows like a breeze has just come across the stage. And
yep.
Magically, it's something new on stage.
Love it.
This show, I feel like you and I were in our like I like to use the term spaghetti method, but we were literally, this was spaghetti method transitioning.
It was.
And that there were so many beautiful transitions in this show, and also so many that I feel like I would have done differently in hindsight.
Yep.
But some of the transitions, and I remember going through the rehearsal process with this, but one of my favorite ones was in Take It Like a Man.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm so glad you brought this up.
I think about that transition a lot still to this day when we're working on shows, because for those people who aren't familiar, in Take It Like a Man, there's a costume change that Emmett essentially is being transformed by Elle, and this costume change happens right on stage very quickly.
Yes.
And we had this genius idea of having all of Elle's sorority sisters on stage, and the clothing racks in the department store that they're in were like, I think we used the term tornado. They like made a tornado around Emmett, and I remember rehearsing that in the space, and like early on, the initial version of that, we had everything on stage spinning in a circle around Emmett. And it quickly became a hazard. I remember we had that large chest, the large department store display thing that was on wheels.
Right.
Do you remember that? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. But I mean, we tried to get every item that was on stage to spin in a circle around Emmett. And at the end of the day, it was only the two clothing racks and some like well-positioned, people holding costumes to try and block him. But it was such a beautiful transition that worked out, I want to say 95% of the time, brilliantly.
That display thing was heavy.
I remember picking that up.
We picked it up from like an antique shop. They were like selling it for $1. That should have been the first red flag. Mm-hmm. But we pulled up with Dakota's truck, and like so many big dudes had to come out and like load it onto the truck. It was so heavy. But that's one of Take It Like a Man, that transition might be one of, like, that's in top 5 of the transitions we've ever done.
Yeah.
And I remember originally I really wanted the Delta Nu girls to ride on in the clothing racks, and it looked so cute, but then we couldn't end up doing it because the costume racks, like, started tilting and stuff, and it just wasn't working. But normally, when they do this number, they have Emmett go off stage, and he never left. He was in the tornado. The girls were changing him, and then they magically spread out, and then he's revealed.
Yeah, they lined up the costume racks together, and then they did it was beautiful. It was really, really well done.
Talking about this makes me want to do the show again.
Yeah.
What a fun time.
It was a blast.
Well, we got so much more rehearsal and stuff to cover, and we got to talk about the set, and that's going to be...
Oh, gosh. Do we ever?
I think the set is going to be next week's episode, because we got a lot to unpack there. There was some nutty stuff that we did there.
Some walls flying, lots of craziness.
Yeah, but next week we'll talk about the set. We'll talk about getting into Tech Week, how that worked, and then we'll get into our performances.
Yes, and hopefully have some special guests on the horizon.
Yes.
So, yes, keep listening.
Keep listening.
And,
review, share.
Exactly.
I don't know what the things are,
and
but
also, just a reminder, if you know where Legally Rats came from, we are waiting. Very much so waiting.
And Joel.
Miranda.
Take back the books. Pack up the clothes. Clear out the room. Drop off the key.
Leave. Left my dignity.
Get in the car.
Just go.
All right.
Have a good week.
Legally Rats.
Legally Rats. Bye.
Bye-bye. And that's a wrap. Thanks for getting snarky with us. We'll see you later.
See you next time.